Alright, hi everybody. This is Algebra 2, section 5.2 is where we are going to start. Properties of quadratic functions in standard form. This is saying that you can define, identify, graph quadratic functions, and then use them to solve problems. So we have a bunch of vocab going on here and steps to do this. So first is vertex form. We looked at this in section 2.9 with the absolute value. So it's exactly the same type of thing. In this case, the vertex would be at the point HK. So it's like it translated H units side to side, K units up or down. This is what the standard form looks like. This is what we're going to look at most of the time. So you want everything on one side like this. And then our steps for graphing. The first thing you want to do is get it in standard form if it's not, and then identify what the A, B, and C values are. We're going to determine if the graph is opening upward or downward, and that's by the A value. If A is positive, it's opening upward. If A is negative, it's opening downward, which we looked at that with all the transformation stuff also. We are going to find the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry comes from this little formula, x equals negative b over 2a, and that's going to be a vertical. We're going to draw it in as a vertical dotted line. That's, if you think about what symmetry means, it's cutting it right down the middle. And then once you have that, you're going to use that to find the vertex. So the answer that we get for the axis of symmetry, that is the x coordinate of your vertex. So we plug that back into the original function, and that's going to give you the vertex point. And then step 5 is just take whatever c is, the c value, and that's your y-intercept. So this should be a review from Algebra 1, but we're just kind of going through it quickly here. Last two things tell us that if the graph opens upward, then the vertex is a minimum, or like the bottom point. So that's like this. This would be a minimum. If it's upside down, that's a maximum. Alright, so we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff with each of these. I'm only doing one example with you, so this should be a really quick video. And then you are going to be just responsible for this one here since it has so many pieces. So we're going to do all these things. We're going to say if it's upward or downward, find the axis of symmetry, the vertex, the y-intercept, sketch a graph, give the domain and range, and say if it's a maximum or a minimum. Alright, so first thing we said to do, which if you need more space, go ahead and feel free to work on the back. A is -1, B is -2, and C is 3 in this case. That just comes from number in front of x squared is A, in front of x is B, and the number by itself is C. And remember, I could have those switched around, so you got to make sure that you have it in that order. Standard form is always highest power down to lowest power. Alright, so now upward or downward, since this A value is negative, this is going to be a downward or a reflected upside down graph. Axis of symmetry. If I plug these in, I have negative, -2 over 2 times -1, and then I have some simplifying to do. So I get an axis of symmetry of -1, and I am going to draw that in here as a dotted line. Okay, now in order to find the vertex, I'm going to take that and plug it back in to the original here. So be careful with parentheses and double negatives and all that kind of stuff. Order of operations also is really important here. So I have the negative from up there, then this is the -1. Another -1 and plus 3. The easiest way to not goof this up is to just type that whole string into the calculator. If you want to do it by hand, but make sure you do the order of operations. So like here, you have to square this first, which is going to make it +1, and then it has this negative, so that's -1, plus 2, plus 3. -1 plus 2 is 1. And 1 plus 3 is 4. So my vertex is -1, 4. And your vertex should always land right on that axis of symmetry because you use that to get the vertex. So it should always be there. Then it says, let's see what else, y-intercept. The y-intercept, this is vertex. Y-intercept is just the c value, whatever c is. So c was 3, so y-intercept goes on the y-axis. That's going to be right here. Okay. And then we can also, if you need another point, we can take this and reflect it through over here and get a sketch of what my parabola should look like. Then it says give the domain and range, tell whether that is a maximum or a minimum. So my domain here, all quadratics have a domain of all real numbers because these arrows are going to go out forever. My range, bottom to top, goes down to negative infinity and up to where that vertex point was, which was at 4. So you could say it is from negative infinity to 4, or you could say y is less than or equal to 4. Either of those would work. And then this, since it's upside down, this would be a maximum at 4. Alright, so there's all the steps. You're going to do the same thing over here for this one. Let's see where you get with that. All of these, so like I said, if you need to do some of the work on the back for that, go for it. And lastly, the joke of the day. What do you call that great feeling that you get when you finish your homework? That's the aftermath. Ha ha ha. Alright, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.